Hey everybody! Sorry we got started here a little bit late. I had some errands to run that went a little bit longer than I was expecting them to. Anyway, let's get into it. So it's time for the news. Weekly news recap for the 26th of September. I'll get it right one of these days. To the 2nd of October, 2022. So, probably the biggest news, although not exactly shocking, I would think, to many people, though a bit surprising perhaps in how fast it happened. But Stadia, Google Stadia, the cloud streaming video game service, is shutting down early next year. So Google is calling its quits on Stadia, as announced in a post on the company blog by Stadia VP and General Manager Phil Harrison. Phil Harrison, of course, being the touch of death for pretty much any kind of video game venture since the PS3, it seems. It sure seems like if something is going to flop, he's attached to it, but whatever. So part of the response, but it says we've made the difficult decision to begin winding down our Stadia streaming service. Google will be refunding all Stadia hardware purchases made through this Google Store, as well as any add-on content sales made through the Stadia Store itself. So if you bought a game, or bought DLC, or bought the Stadia controller, etc. hardware, you should be in for a refund. I'm not sure how exactly they're facilitating that, but just that there will be a refund. Further on in their report, they're like, yeah, the technology's great and all, but it just didn't catch on with people, or etc. etc. But we're gonna keep using the technology in other places, on like YouTube and what have you, and also make it available to our industry partners. So this is kind of where Google Stadia had been going in the last year or so, that it had been pivoting from making its own games or being a full-on platform for games and just becoming a white label streaming service, in the same way that like Amazon Web Services hosts a lot of your favorite websites, though you may not be aware of it. So it's the same kind of thing, in that if game streaming does come on in the future, publishers like Ubisoft, like EA, Activision, Microsoft, and so on could potentially leverage what won't be called Stadia anymore, but will be the Stadia technology effectively, to just make their own version of it, in the same way. Hey Melvin, how's it going? In the same way, like, web services use Amazon to do their stuff without really telling anybody that that's what they're doing. Anyway, this is a really great quote, though. We remain deeply committed to gaming. That's why we are completely getting out of the game service and shut down any of our first-party developers, also without telling them, and just made them jobless. Anyway, right before the pandemic too. And we will continue to invest in new tools, technologies, and platforms that power the success of developers. Now, the continuing to invest in new tools, technologies, and platforms, yeah, because that's what Google does. It just doesn't maintain any of them. The success of developers, industry partners, and cloud customers and creators. Okay, so speaking of the success of developers and their industry partners, hey, they forgot to tell any of the developers that they were shutting down Stadia, and there are plenty of game devs who were still working on their games, expecting them to come out in November. They learned about this the same time everybody else did. Yeah, we're definitely committed to the success of our developers and industry partners. Stadia developers still working on games shocked to hear of shutdown. Developers still hard at work on Google Stadia projects have been expressing their shock and frustration at the cloud gaming service's impending shutdown. So this is basically a collection of tweets and quotes from different developers and publishers and stuff who are like, could you not have like let us know in this like months ago that this was going to happen? We've invested a lot of money in these games and porting our games either to Stadia or making exclusives for Stadia, and now you're just saying, yeah, lol, get fucked, basically. Google's announcement yesterday came as a complete surprise to all of these people. In an all caps tweet, rather. Oh boy, very happy to see months of my work going in the bin again. I sure do love game development. This is from Simon Roth, creator of Maya. He continued his tweet to basically say, every time something bad happens in games, the people affected, sometimes having their lives turned upside down, learn from the press or Twitter. No emails, phone calls, no heads up, no note on the website, nothing. Stadia are not the lone wolves in this situation. There are a lot of times publishers will pull the plug on game projects without letting them know ahead of time. It's not great, but it does happen, unfortunately, a lot. This is from Necrosoft Brandon Sheffield. Launching Hyper Gunsport there being Stadia, was going to recoup our dev costs. We were launching there in November and are now in a much tougher situation. So they've, they're paying their staff, they're paying for marketing and so on for their game. And the idea was they would get a revenue share with Google Stadia. That would help them recoup all of those costs. Are they going to still get that? No. Will Google honor their contract to pay them? You would hope so, but I guess we'll see. Tangle Tower was due to launch on Stadia in 2 days' time, and the article was the first I heard about it shutting down. So yeah, not great. This is from developer Tom Vian. This is from Bard's Tale developer Rebecca Heineman. We have a title coming out 1st of November. Now we hear about this. Like, is not a lot of time for them to... I don't even know what they could possibly do here. No More Robots, this is Mike Rose. We have a game coming to Stadia in November. Who wants to guess that Google will refuse to pay us the money they owe us for it? Yeah. So yeah, we're definitely invested in the success of developers and industry partners. And what else did they say? Oh right, yeah, cloud customers. Cloud customers, right. Okay, anyway, Stadia owners want Google to make their controller usable elsewhere. So right now, the Stadia controller, which is, as you can see, pretty much a carbon copy of a Switch Pro controller. Like, here's a Switch Pro controller. It's the same. It's the same fucking thing. Anyway, it doesn't work on anything else. It only works with Stadia at the moment. So what players are hoping is, hey, can we not have more plastic shit that doesn't do anything? Can we maybe, can you push out a firmware thing to, like, maybe have this work on PC at the very minimum? Players are hoping for one last update to the controller's firmware. Stadia controller can only be used through Stadia at the moment. Players are asking Google to update the controller so it can still be used once the service is discontinued. So when Stadia is discontinued, if they don't push a firmware update to this thing, it is effectively a paperweight. So that's a lot of plastic garbage, more or less. It has no purpose. It's not great. Some have asked for Google to update the firmware itself, while others have simply asked for the firmware to be made open source. Yeah, so if they're not going to be arsed doing the firmware and they're not going to pursue the platform anymore, just make it open source and people will fix it themselves. Some members of the Stadia community can create an application themselves. So yeah, will they do that? Doubt. Once Google cut ties with things, that tends to be the end of it. You'll never see it again. Anyway, so that's about like the hardware. What about the software? The games themselves, your game saves, you might have hundreds of hours in Red Dead or Cyberpunk or something like that. And you're like, can I get that save? I spent a lot of time on that. I'd like to be able to, to keep going it. Well, while Google themselves haven't said anything about game saves, Ubisoft, Bungie, and IO, it's IO Interactive, have said they're looking at it. We're gonna see if we can make that happen. So basically, Ubisoft are like, we're working to bring the games you owned on Stadia to PC. What they'll probably do is leverage it to Ubisoft Plus. You might end up having to use Ubisoft Plus if you want to keep that game. On the other hand, you are getting a refund from Google, so debatable what way they'll go through with that. Bungie, information regarding Destiny 2 Stadia accounts once we have a plan of action on it. So they're working on it. Whether you can transfer your save across, I would think you could. Like, those characters are kept on Bungie servers as well so that they can authenticate them. So they have the character. The question is, how can you prove that it's your character? Not sure there's a good way to go about doing that. And IO Interactive, the guys behind Hitman. To all our Hitman fans on Google Stadia, we hear you. We are looking into ways for you to continue your Hitman experience on other platforms. So they are looking into it. The question is, will they be able to do it? You can use Google's takeout service, which is an option for essentially downloading all of the data Google has on you, which is substantial. You should check it out sometime. And since it's Stadia's Google product, presumably your game saves are in there somewhere as well. We're not sure, really, how that's going to work. But what about the games themselves? Were there any, like, big exclusives there that we're going to lose? Game preservation and so on. So what games are we going to lose forever once Stadia is dead if they don't get ported? So Stadia itself didn't have many exclusives. Most of them were ports, which was also a big criticism of the service, is that why would I pay a worse version of a game I already own, These are the questions. But anyway, so one exclusive is a game called Hello Engineer. If you're familiar with the Hello Neighbor series of games, which is a kind of I guess it's kind of like a first-person stealth kind of game. Basically, your neighbor is up to some nefarious deeds, and you're trying to essentially break into their house and snoop around without getting caught. Hello Engineer, I believe, is some kind of multiplayer builder riff on that whole idea. Pixel Junk Raiders is a multiplayer melee battle royale kind of thing, I think. It's a third-person roguelike action game. Okay, I was way off. But anyway, was not particularly well received. Outcasters is a top-down online multiplayer combat game. Okay, fine. Pac-Man Mega Tunnel Battle is Pac-Man Battle Royale, effectively. Not unlike Bomberman Battle Royale, which is a similar kind of thing. Guilt is probably their only kind of decent game that was an exclusive. Guilt is a like a horror narrative game that is very much exclusive to Stadia. I don't believe it's anywhere else. So of the people who are saying like, yeah, let's bring the exclusives over to PC and whatever, that's the one that most people point out is like, yeah, that's the game that they want. Now, whether a game is good or not, of course, doesn't matter. The whole point is video games are art. We're going with that. And if that's the case, you want to preserve all of those games. So just going like, yeah, they're not that great anyway, so we're not losing much. No. You want to preserve every game. That's the whole point of game preservation. It's the whole point of preserving a media. It's why you don't say, no, that film is shit, we're not going to preserve that, or that book is terrible, we're not going to preserve that, or anything. They're all examples of the art form. They all have something to say, even if what that something is extremely shallow and banal and a riff on more popular or more successful products. But the point is, it's still art, so you do still want to preserve them, and that is obviously going to be an issue if Google Stadia shuts down, or when Google Stadia shuts down, rather. So hopefully their games get ported, but I have a feeling not all of them will. Guilt probably will. Hello Engineer probably will. I'm thinking the rest of Pac-Man, maybe. Konami, possibly they'll do it. They did port Bomberman, so they might do the same. Wait, sorry, Pac-Man's not Konami. Pac-Man is Namco. Namco Bandai. Yeah, Namco Bandai will do it. The other two, not so sure about. So why did Stadia fail? So there's like so many reasons. The fact that it has Google in front of its name is probably the biggest reason, because they just get bored very quickly. More on that in a second. But other reasons is like the direction of what the product was meant to be, who it was for. You know, this is like meant to be a high-end gaming device for people who have a super fast internet connection, who are really tech savvy and so on. And you're expecting them not to also own a gaming PC, not to also own a high-end console as well? Like, who was it for? It was like there's a weird middle ground of two different customers that just there's no overlap there. There is no overlap. Anyway, one other thing though is that they just didn't have the games. And it didn't help that Phil Harrison himself was like, no, I don't want an exclusive Stadia exclusive Death Stranding sequel. Why would I want that? The Kojima collaboration was cancelled as Google believed there was no longer a market for solo games. Yeah. What are the best-selling games in the last while? Or were they all single-player games? Oh, that's weird. And it was cancelled by Stadia's general manager, Phil Harrison. Remember, he has the touch of death for video games. Just thought I'd throw that in there again. Phil Harrison was also the person who coined or began the ball rolling on the nobody wants to play single-player games anymore. He's that guy, and has been proven wrong over and over again. But whatever. And finally, some last thing about Google Stadia stuff. So when Google Stadia was launched initially, it was launched in a very strange art presentation, where it had the Atari and the ET game on the Atari, famously a massive flop, famously almost destroyed the home console industry in the first place. Okay, why is this here? Beside it, we had the Power Glove from Nintendo, which had, again, also massive flop, had 0 use cases on the Nintendo. The only thing people remember it from is it appeared in a film once, and that's it. And then the Dreamcast, again, huge flop. good console, but still massive flop. Sega never made a home console again after it. And then Google Stadia was like the next one announced, and you're like, what are you trying to tell us? Are you deliberately trying to tell us that Google Stadia is going to flop? Like, it was a really weird presentation that kind of gave across very much the wrong message, and almost prophetic, almost. As Nibel here says, the console that tanked Sega's hardware division, the Dreamcast, a useless peripheral that was more successful as a meme than as a product, that's the Power Glove, and a game that was so badly received that truckloads of unsold copies were buried in a desert, and that would be E.T. And that for a long time that was considered to just be a rumor or a myth, that all of the unsold cartridges of E.T. were buried somewhere in the Mexico desert. As it turns out, it's true. They found them a while ago. So this tweet, originally this tweet was done when Google Stadia had not been announced yet. We didn't even know what it was called, and it just had a little coming soon thing. But yeah, the collection is being auctioned for charity and what have you. But still, a weird way to start the whole Stadia thing in the first place. And I just thought I'd throw this in. Killbygoogle.com is a website that tracks all of the products that Google has launched and subsequently axed over the years. So there's Google Stadia. It's not even top of the list. Like, there's 3 more have come up since then. But yeah, Google Stadia getting the chop at the start of next year. Getting KO'd in 4 months. Google Stadia was a cloud gaming service combining a Wi-Fi gaming controller and allowed users to stream gameplay through web browsers, TV, mobile apps, and Chromecast. It will be about 3 years old. Didn't last very long. Now, I'm not sure if the scroll bar comes up on stream, but can you see the scroll bar? Can you see how big it is? Let's do a quick scroll here, shall we? Look at all them. Google do not tend to their products very well. That's all I'll say about that. Okay. Anyway, moving on. So outside of that news, so some games were announced during the week. This is Wild Hearts. This is a collaboration between EA and Koei Tecmo. They're the guys behind... Are they the guys behind Ninja Gaiden? Yeah, the guys behind Neo and Ninja Gaiden and stuff like that. So this is coming under the EA Originals banner. This is essentially meant to be an attempt to compete with Monster Hunter. So the idea is it is very much set in a kind of fantasy Eastern landscape. So I say Eastern, it's pretty much all Japan, to be honest, but whatever. Yeah, it's meant to be going for this Monster Hunter vibe, where you fight giant monsters with not a lot of equipment, but there we are. There also used to be some kind of construction mechanic that I thought at the beginning looked a little bit Fortnite-y, but the more this trailer comes in, it's just that there are some installations you can set up, like bombs and ballista and stuff like that you don't normally get in Monster Hunter. Monster Hunter tends to be whatever you bring into the fight, that's what you've got. But yeah. Will be released at some point early next year. We don't know an exact release date, but that's the idea. It will be a multiplayer focusing, just the same way Monster Hunter is, and what have you. It certainly looks nice, but good luck competing with Monster Hunter is all I'll say about that. But hey, it might work. It might not. And the Entropy Center has a release date, so this was announced at, I think, a State of Play, or maybe it might have been Summer Games Fest or something like that. So the Entropy Center can sort of be known as Portal 3. It's kind of got that idea of it. It is a first-person puzzle game that has a unique mechanic. In this case, you have an entropy gun that can effectively store like potential energy or kinetic energy or something like that, and like rewind time or fast forward time and stuff like that. And also the gun has its own personality, talks to you, tells jokes and stuff like that, not unlike GLaDOS, Wheatley, and what have you. It certainly looks charming. The character voices are very well done. I chuckled a couple of times at the trailer. Like, it seems like it'll be a fun thing. It now does have a release date, though. It will be out before the end of the year. I think it's November at some point. I'm just going to skip to the end, because I forget what the exact release date is. The 3rd of November. Okay, so beginning of what is next month now, 3rd of November. We'll see the Entropy Center, and then Epic Games free games for this week. We have Runbow, which is a kind of multiplayer party game. So there's a lot of different like mini games that you play together. Either it's like a collective brawl between everybody, or a big race, or something like that. You know, it's very fun, but you kind of need a lot of people to play it, kind of thing. And then Drone Racing League, which doesn't have a video, but it is effectively drone racing. That's like I can kind of get an idea of what that's about. It being the start of a month, that means both PlayStation Plus and Xbox Games with Gold all have updates. So this month in your PlayStation Plus Essential tier, that's the bottom tier, you get free games every month, but you don't have access to any of the back catalog. So we're having Hot Wheels Unleashed, which is, you know, tiny toy cars driving around in tiny spaces, kind of thing. Injustice 2, which is Mortal Kombat, but it's all superheroes. And Super Hot, which is honestly a fantastic first-person shooter puzzle game. So the idea with Super Hot is there a video? There is no video. The idea with Super Hot is you are in this kind of stylized room, lots of enemies around you, but you're kind of playing it like a John Wick action movie kind of thing. The thing is, time only moves when you move. So as long as you stay put, you have plenty of time to decide, what am I going to do next? I got to dodge these bullets. This guy's going to punch me. I got to get out of the way of him. I got to intercept that guy, and so on. And time will only move when you start moving. So while it is a kind of a first-person action game, it's like a slow-paced one until you decide to execute on your plan and then discover, nope, that's not going to work. Very quickly discover, nope, that's wrong. Nope, that's wrong. There's a lot of trial and error on what is the exact route I need to take to get through this room. It's a very good game. And plus he says Super Hot a lot. And then Games with Gold. So you'll notice Games with Gold is like not that many games this month. And that is because this is the first month where you're no longer getting Xbox Original and Xbox 360 games. There's only going to be Xbox One and Xbox Series games going forward on Games with Gold, mostly because I have a feeling they're planning to shut down Games with Gold at some point. And they're just going to try to move everybody to Game Pass, which is a better service, really. But you have Endbound and Bomber Crew Deluxe Edition. I don't know what either of these games are. No, it's not even Endbound, it's Windbound. Oh, it's because the fucking E was in the way. Alright, anyway, it's Windbound. Windbound, washed up on an uncharted island, must use your will and skill to survive. Is this a survival game? That doesn't sound good. You'll need to craft weapons and tools to survive. Yeah, it's a crafting game. No thanks. Bomber Crew Deluxe Edition. You need to take on extremely high-risk missions. World War Strategic. Okay, so it's like a cartoonish fighter pilot sim type thing. Okay. I don't think do people really pay attention to the Games with Gold games anymore? I don't think so. Almost all moved on to Game Pass. So those are games that are either coming up soon or will be released in the next couple of days. But what if you wanted to play something right now? What could you play? So you could play Valkyrie Elysium, which we played on Friday. Valkyrie Elysium is an entry in the Valkyrie Profile series, but I think it's meant to be more of an offshoot. I'm not too familiar with the Valkyrie Profile series, so I don't know it too well. But this is kind of presented as a middle ground between the old brawler types, your Devil May Cry's kind of thing, your God of War type games, more in the God of War sense of things, and a Dark Souls-y thing. So it's kind of in between the two of them. You know, combat is fairly lenient, but enemies still hit you pretty hard, kind of thing. But you have a lot more power at your disposal than you would have in a typical Souls game. Gameplay-wise, I thought it was fun. We played a little bit of the demo on Friday. I enjoyed the small amount of it that we got to play. It's a shortish enough demo. A criticism I have heard about the game is that it is a bit... the story is a bit bland. So that could be an issue for you. Also out this week is Moon Scars, which is a pretty punishing roguelike game with a very nice art style. So this is a side-scrolling, what I think is a pixel filter over 3D models. This is what it feels like, because the animations are a little too smooth for them to be pixel animations. But anyway, it still looks nice. So it is a roguelike. I believe you only can update or upgrade your character if you die. Like the whole point of it is you'll only get more powerful when you die. When you die, because you're probably almost certainly going to. But yes, it is a very difficult game. That has been the common criticism, or if you like, unless it's a criticism, a critique, is that the game is difficult. But we'll see. I will give that a shot soon enough, I think. Hoko Life is Animal Crossing. Effectively, I'm surprised they let it on the Switch because it is basically just Animal Crossing again, but with different characters and not a first party Nintendo title. It's by a different developer. But yeah, if you know and are familiar with and like Animal Crossing, there's a pretty good chance you'll like Hoko Life too. I think there's a little bit more of the life sim, the farming sim stuff to it than Animal Crossing has in particular, but it is effectively that kind of game. Duff Romantic I showed off a while ago. Duff Romantic, there's no proper trailer for it, so I'm kind of scraping the Game Awards trailer for it, but this is a very chill tile game where you just sort of gradually build out a landscape. It's meant to be kind of cozy and relaxing sort of thing. Dorfromantik has some kind of, it's like a German word for this particular feeling of like, I don't know, cozy ruralness or something like that. But yeah, it's out on Nintendo at the moment. I think it's on PC. I think it's been on PC a while as well. And The Excavation of Hobbs Barrow is a pixel adventure title, so it's not unlike the older Monkey Island games or maybe something closer to Broken Sword. It has very much a mature themes, mature content kind of thing. It is a horror title. It is not shying away from that kind of thing. It is, as I understand it, to be an adventure puzzly type game. It is for now PC only. It may make its way onto consoles, so you'll have to let me know if it's any good. From what I've heard, it is very good. So maybe keep an eye out on it if you are interested in those kind of things. Adventure titles, but are also super horror thing. And then we have Death First Let It Lie. Now, I'm not going to play this, and I'm not going to get it, because it's a Battle Royale thing. But I just wanted to highlight it because the Let It Die universe is really interesting. So the original Let It Die game was a free-to-play Souls type or Souls-like game where you would be trying to climb this tower in a post-apocalyptic dystopian thing, but it was all set out as a kind of game show kind of thing. It didn't play very well. It was very clunky. That was most of the reason why I don't think it had any legs, because the Souls games are punishing enough, and if you also have to deal with wonky controls at the same time, it's just not a particularly fun thing. But Death First Let It Die is another entry in the series. It's another, in this case, it's a battle royale, a melee battle royale kind of thing. I only wanted to point it out because as much as the game itself, Let It Die, didn't handle very well, it was an interesting title, and it has a really nice presentation. It has this kind of like mania around death and death games and stuff like that. Like, it's very funny, funnier than it probably has any right to be. And there has one particular character in it where it is effectively, it's the Grim Reaper, but they get about on a skateboard and they do like skate tricks and stuff like that. And they're very like, how do you do, fellow kids? A little bit. It's a very funny character. And he calls himself Uncle Death. It's, there's a shot of him like right at the end of this trailer. Just to let you know that, yes, it is in fact in that universe. Do we get a quick shot of him? Is it before the title or after the title? There he is. No. This is gonna be hard to get. Hang on. Try it again. Now. Yeah, perfect. That's it there. It's a great character. I really liked him. But yeah, the game didn't play very well, so I didn't spend too much time with it. But whatever. That's out this week as well. I think it's free to play, but I'm not sure. Anyway, unfortunately, though, it is now time to talk about the worst parts of the video game industry. No, damn it, fucked it up. It's now time to talk about the worst part of video games, the video game industry. So, ex-Nintendo worker details labor complaints. So, A couple of weeks ago, there was a story of, you know, malcontent, discontent at Nintendo of America. There are a lot of different stories about people being bullied, people being pushed out of their jobs, and so on. Contractors not being particularly well treated and that kind of thing. One of the stories that came up as part of that was that somebody asked a question about unionizing at an all hands meeting, and then like a couple of weeks later, they were fired. Uh, and the complaint that has come up on this is that I was fired because I was asked, because I simply asked a question about unionization, about unionizing. That's their argument. Nintendo's argument is no, he was fired for breaking an NDA, I think was the issue. So, person at the heart of a labor complaint against Nintendo and contracting firm Aston Carter has come forward in an interview with Axios. Axios is paywalled, so that's why we're looking at this article. They tried to ask Nintendo of America President Doug Bowser about unionization in a January company meeting, and Nintendo and Aston Carter fired them for it in February. That is what they allege. They added that after the meeting, an Aston Carter supervisor told them it was a downer question and said in the future they should put any such questions to Aston Carter rather than Nintendo. So Aston Carter very much are as we talked about in the last time this came up, they're very much kid gloves with Nintendo because it's such a huge client for them. It's probably, I think it's actually their only client. So they're very careful not to anger Nintendo. So anytime, again, poor practice, bullying, sexual harassment, stuff like that towards their contractors, who Aston Carter are meant to be managers for, they don't do anything about it. So allegedly, the reason he was terminated is because of this tweet. In today's build, someone somewhere must have deleted every other texture in the game. Everything is now red, just like pure red. It's very silly. Apparently, that was grounds for termination. Does that sound like a breach of NDA? No. You have no idea what game that is. You could be talking about any game. Could be talking about anything. Could be talking about a completely internal development build. Could be a tools build. You don't know. Apparently, though, fired. No, it seems like he might have more grounds than you guys do. Anyway, but I'm not a lawyer. Speaking of suing people, though, Atlas sues makers behind private server of defunct Shin Megami Tensei MMO. So, here's a kind of... They are within... Legally, they are correct to do this. It does fall under their IP. They do have to protect their IP. Yes, I get it. On the other hand, the game that they're suing, they don't sell it anymore. They shut down the servers a while ago. This is a fan server just to keep the game running that you aren't keeping running. You've no intention of keeping running. You're not even making money off it anymore. Why do you care? Trademark and IP rules is why they care. Anyway, Atlas has filed a lawsuit against the two people responsible for the maintenance of a private server for Shin Megami Tensei Imagine, also known as SMT Imagine, an online MMO that the company closed down several years ago. Remember, it's not trading anymore. The lawsuit accuses two defendants of blatant violation of US copyright law after deciding to resurrect the title with their, a word I can't pronounce, Requiemu? I presume it's emu for emulation. Imagine project. So the idea is you copied the game server and are just hosting it somewhere else. That's an infringement on our IP. Copyright law says we have to go after you for it. It's not that they're being apologetic about it or anything. They're being very much, here's a big fucking hammer of, cease and desist, fuck off, give us money. The suit also accuses the defendants of creating an unauthorized web server or server emulator that emulates the original game and allows users to play together online. Do keep in mind, though, the official online servers for SMT Imagine were closed in the US and Japan in 2015-2016. This is a game that is no longer trading. This is a game that Atlas have washed their hands of. They've shut down the servers for. They don't market the game. You cannot buy them off them. You cannot even buy the game in the first place. This is a game preservation issue in that people are not allowed to keep the game going on their own. They're getting sued for it. And this isn't the only game that had stuff like this. This is like World of Warcraft. No, sorry, not World of Warcraft. Yeah, World of Warcraft had like classic servers, had custom servers for stuff like this because they wanted to keep the game preserved in this particular state, and the official IP owner didn't. So yeah, like it's a question of games preservation for this kind of thing, for preserving the art itself. When it's all tied up in copyright IP law, it doesn't allow you to do that. It doesn't allow the regular person to keep this going, kind of thing. You know, it would be a case of like, say Disney or whoever decided to just wipe Star Wars out of their profile or their portfolio. Now they never would because it makes them so much money. But let's say they did. They just wanted to wipe the whole thing out, cut down anybody streaming it. It's on any streaming platform. No, it's gone off the face of the earth. Would people be okay with that? No, because it's film preservation. You know, it's meant to be an artistic preservation, but apparently it's fine with video games and so on. Anyway, again, just highlighting preservation issue. This goes in tandem with the Google Stadia thing, where you potentially no longer have access to those exclusive games because Stadia is shutting down. Anyway, we do have to take the opportunity to give an Activision update. It's always important. I don't think I get to shit on them exactly this time, but building up to it. I'm going to eat some more fiber and I'll be ready when it comes down to it. Anyway, Microsoft files its case for Activision acquisition with EU competition regulator. So, this is the merger between Activision Blizzard and Microsoft. It has already gone through the UK's consumer marketing or consumer monopoly or something like that. Guys who said, "Hey, we need to take a closer look at this one. This is I'm not sure about this one, guys. Not sure about this one. We might need to get the smaller stamp and stamp some individual places instead." But now it's gone out to the EU as well. So European Competition Watchdog confirmed it has set a provisional deadline of the start of next month to clear the 68.7, just say 69, it's funnier, $69 billion deal to choose to enter a second, more detailed investigation phase. The FTC and the UK equivalent, whose name I forget, have both chosen to do. I think the FTC have. Maybe it's the SEC. One of them has chosen to do a follow-up, more detailed investigation. The UK one definitely have decided they're going to go for a phase 2 thing. The goal is to decide whether the new merger would significantly reduce competition on the market. So remember, Microsoft's side of things is that one game isn't going to massively disenfranchise a bunch of customers and so on. Plus, we're also making it available to Sony and PC and all sorts of places. Whereas Sony's thing is, no, Call of Duty super important to the industry somehow, just the one fucking game, but okay. Stop focusing on that part. You should be focusing on how Game Pass is going to massively monopolize the market. Anyway, according to the Financial Times, regulators and others involved in the Microsoft and Activision merger are expecting a lengthy EU probe. So it's expected that the EU will follow similar suit to CMA, Competition and Markets Authority of the UK, where they have decided we need to take a closer look at it. It's expected that the EU will do the same. So we'll have more of that in the future, presumably. Okay, so PlayStation Stars. So a while ago, we talked about the PlayStation Stars initiative from Sony. This is what I assumed was going to be their NFT thing until NFTs became taboo and they needed to pivot, but they made all of this money and they invested all of this money to make these digital collectibles, and now nobody wants NFTs anymore. But they still want to put them out there, so this is their attempt to do that. So it's meant to be like a loyalty program for PlayStation users. But anyway, the idea is you unlock trophies or play certain games or complete particular challenges and you'll get little collectibles and stuff like that. However, one particular advantage of a high-tier PlayStation Stars member is that they get higher priority in customer support. So PlayStation Stars has launched in Japan this week. I think it's in the US next week and in Europe the week after that. And then I think by then it'll be everywhere. But the idea is the highest tier of PlayStation Stars offers better customer support. Offers better customer support to players on a higher tier. So the program has a 4-tier level system. All players start at level 1 and can work their way up to level 4 by either buying games or earning trophies. Buying games is a part of a problem because it means you're essentially paying for better customer service, which isn't great. It should really be just accepted. However, some users are upset that the level 4 tier, which requires you to buy 4 full-price games and or unlock a lot of trophies, rewards players with improved customer service. When contacting PlayStation customer support, you will be given priority in the chat order. That's not a good look, Sony. That's a very bad look. And of course, people have pointed out that this is good customer service should be a standard. It's not something you should have to actually pay extra for. The people who play a lot of games probably don't need that much customer service, whereas somebody brand new to the service might. Or sorry, somebody brand new to PlayStation might need more customer service and so on. But the point is, nobody necessarily needs more or less customer service. Everybody needs the same amount. And the idea that you're attributing that to the people who spend more money get better customer service. Now I know that's kind of how it works in general, or in like other industries. Obviously, your higher playing client, you're going to give them better treatment. You shouldn't, though, is the point. It's unethical to do it that way, but of course that is how people do it. But whatever. So yeah, a bit of a stink about that. The question is whether that will carry over to when it launches in the US, when it launches in EU, and so on. PlayStation's customer support isn't particularly good in the first place. So it being a higher I get higher priority to be ignored. I get ignored better. is what's going to happen there. Anyway. All right. Going to wrap up with something stupid, some dumb stuff. So in the latest FIFA, you can turn off commentary that says you are bad at the game. It was pretty funny. So there's a toggle somewhere in the game settings. Disable critical commentary. So if you've ever played a FIFA game or watched your brothers play a FIFA game, which is my experience of it, you might hear the commenter say like, "Oh, that was a bad shot," or "Oh, he's not," or "They're not," they're not. They need to put in a better effort, etc., etc. That kind of thing. You can turn it off. It's like, stop saying I'm shit at the game, FIFA, you bollocks. I don't know. That's pretty funny. Apparently, it doesn't work that well though, according to what's his name? According to Wesley Yunpool, it apparently doesn't quite work that well. I'm not sure it works particularly well. I played a full Ultimate Team Division Rivals match with the commentary disabled, and I was still tore into my finishing and had some choice words for one of my players. So yeah, it may or may not work particularly well, but still, it's a funny option to have, I suppose, is what I'm going with. I'll let this loop. Anyway, that was the news for the 26th of September to 2nd of October 2022. So Stadia shutting down. Not surprised exactly. I think the surprising part is that it was just bam, we're done. There was no there was foreshadowing of it. We're trying to say there was no like easy letdown for people to let them know. They were still contracting out work to other developers. They were still porting games across. You would have expected to be like, hey, we're gonna let all of these contracts expire, or pay them out or whatever, and then we'll announce it. I know, obviously, if they started doing that, developers would be like, hey, Google Stadia aren't renewing our contract, or whatever, this doesn't sound good, and there would be rumors around that kind of thing. It would probably affect share price and what have you. For Google's part, they are kind of tightening the belts. They're not spending as much on other products as well, so it's not just like Stadia isn't the only thing. As you saw on Kill by Google, it's not the only thing that they're killing off or not continuing to support in the future. There was a big stink about Google CEO telling people that they should learn to have fun without money at Google. Not a good sound, really, for a company that should be, rolling in cash, but what have you. New releases, Wild Hearts. We need to see an actual unbroken section of gameplay to see how well it stacks up against Monster Hunter. Like, that's a hell of a game to try to compete with. It's essentially been uncontested in, like, it doesn't really have a genre. It's just Monster Hunter. It doesn't fit into a genre because nobody else is doing it. So, okay, that's a hell of a thing to just start, let's compete with them. Okay, let's see how it goes. Like, I would be happy to see a really good game. Why wouldn't I? I would love to play a good game. That would be great. Still, good luck. Entropy Center, I'm glad it's coming out soon. I had thought that was going to be started next year at some point. Looks fun. I'm looking forward to playing it. New releases. Valkyrie Elysium is fun gameplay, but yeah, like the environments that we were in the demo, and some of the like there's very little story, and the environments themselves are a bit basic. You know, they're not all that interesting, to be honest. But the combat was fun, so how do you weigh those things up? It's not going to be a 10 out of 10 game. Let's put it that way. Some other things. Move on to industry bullshit. Yeah, the Nintendo complaint. Like, it's good that we have that example of what exactly was the reason they were terminated, and that does not sound like it's grounds for it. So either there's more to it, or Aston Carter are playing shitheads, which wouldn't surprise me. But there we are. Anyway, we're going to move on to channel update. So, what is happening on the channel next week? Or this week, I guess, is another way to look at it. Anyway, here is our shortlist roadmap for the rest of the year. So again, if anyone hasn't seen this before, these are effectively the games I had planned to play from July onwards until the end of December. So anything with a green tick, finished. Anything with yellow dots, in progress. Anything with the grey clock thing, it's coming up soon. And anything with nothing, it's a while off. You know, it'll be a while before we get there. So this week we continue to play some more Return to Monkey Island. I was going to be playing it on Monday and Wednesday, but Monday I was just so fucking tired. I just wasn't up to being playing video games. It would have just been a silent stream because I just had no energy whatsoever. And I don't think I would have solved any puzzles either. So we only got one day of Monkey Island out of it, but we are continuing on to it. We are somewhere in the middle of part 4. For anyone who's played the game, that's where we're at. What else did we play this week? We played Harvestella on Thursday. Harvestella is Square Enix's Rune Factory spiritual successor kind of thing. It is half Stardew Valley, half JRPG dungeon crawler type thing. It works out. It works out pretty well. There is a bit of an annoyance on, like, it is very time gated in that once it hits midnight, you have to go home. You know, you can't just keep progressing through the dungeon. I get that the reason they're doing that is so that you don't favor one side of the game more than the other, but it's a little frustrating. We only played the demo though, so it's possible that more systems and more mechanics open up later on in the game. We also play Valkyrie Elysium, as I talked about there. As I said, it's kind of somewhere between old God of War and Souls games. It's somewhere between the two. It's nowhere near as punishing as... I see Zelda in there. I don't know. I might. I'm still thinking about it. Zelda, he's sneaking in there in the bottom right corner. I'm thinking about it. Yeah, Valkyrie Elysium is somewhere between the old God of War games and the newer, like, Souls-like action RPG type things. It's not as easy as the newer God of Wars. The older God of Wars, and it's not as hard as the Souls-like games. It is still a kind of lots of enemies brawler type. But you do need a little bit more strategy than you normally would in the older brawler type games. But enemies don't, like, kill you in one hit like the new like Souls like stuff. So it's in between the two of them. It's fun. I liked it. That was Friday. Saturday, Xenoblade Chronicles 2. It's over. The curse is lifted. I finished Xenoblade Chronicles 2. It was emotional, but it's done now. Short stream. Apparently I stopped, like, right in front of the last boss, so yeah. Anyway, it was a short enough stream, fun ending. There's some interesting implications for Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I do know that there is DLC for Xenoblade Chronicles 2, story DLC. I will play it at some point, it just won't be the next game. Yeah, I need a break from it. Speaking of, though, so next week, Monday and Wednesday, it is planned that I will continue our run at Return to Monkey Island. Full screen? Full screen, thank you. I think I'm pretty close to the end of Return to Monkey Island, so it may not be both Monday and Wednesday. It might just be Monday, and we'll play something else on Wednesday. So we're pretty close to the end of it. I'm having a lot of fun with it. You know, it has a pretty strong nostalgia hit. Even if some of Guybrush's decisions and necessarily feel great about. Sure, some people know there's a part in the first part of Return to Monkey Island where there's some yeah. I'm not gonna spoil it, but yeah, I didn't feel particularly great afterwards. If it's the case that we finish Return to Monkey Island on Monday, then we will start Grim Fandango. Grim Fandango Remaster, Grim Fandango HT on Wednesday. So a while ago I did a poll for, hey, what's the next Foley Fable you guys want to see? and it was I forget what the 4 entries were, but effectively it was the Council and Grim Fandango were tied for first place, and I went with the Council first because I had never played it before. The Council is finished. I was going to roll right into Grim Fandango, but it turns out we finished the Council right around Return to Monkey Island came out, so I just went to, fuck it, I'm just going to play Return to Monkey Island instead. But if it's the case that we finish Return to Monkey Island on Monday, we'll play Grim Fandango on Wednesday. Either way, Grim Fandango is the next Foley Fable, so it'll either be this Wednesday or next Wednesday. Thursday, I'm still running through all the demos I have, so I can avoid actually buying any new games for a while, because I need the money. The Centennial Case came out a while ago. It is an FMV adventure game. So FMV games are a very old type of game, because they were extremely cheap to make. You just had to film a bunch of people doing stuff. And you just, have a button press to change branching story paths and stuff like that. Now, they have improved dramatically in the last couple of years, and Centennial Case has a demo, and it is one I've been interested to play, so we're going to take a look at it on Thursday. Friday, I have D&D, or at least I'm planning to have D&D, so there probably won't be a stream on Friday. Keep your eyes peeled, that may change, but you can take it almost as written that it's not going to happen. However, on Saturday, so as I said, I did need something to replace Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and I do kind of want to take a break from giant JRPGs, so we're going to play the original Resident Evil. Or that is my plan, at least, if I can get it to run. So I did recently get some commission work done from Phil, who does the art at the end of my streams. So I did get him to do some stuff for Resident Evil for me, and that is finished. So I am planning on starting a Resident Evil series. Foley Plays Resident Evil. We'll start at the first game, work our way through the numbered entries in the series. So I would like to do the PlayStation ones, like Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3 on the PS1. Then do like the remasters, Resident Evil 1, the Resident Evil HD remaster, the Resident Evil 2 remake, the Resident Evil 3 remake. Resident Evil 4 I would like to get done before the remake comes out. That would be nice. I don't think it's going to happen, but that's kind of my plan. And then 5, 6, and 7. 5, 6, 7, 8. And Code Veronica will try to fit in at some place. I know there are tons of Resident Evil spin-offs, but I'm not going to get to all of them. So I'm basically just going to say, if it's Resident Evil and a number, we'll play it. If it's not Resident Evil and a number, we won't play it. That's the way I'm going to have to put it. Code Veronica is the only exception, because that doesn't have a number, but that is the plan. If I can't get OG Resident Evil to run, which is entirely possible, we will instead just go straight to the HD remake, or the remake of the remaster, Resident Evil what did they call it? It was like Resident Evil Remake Remastered HD or something fucking stupid, but yeah, that is the plan. We'll play that one instead. I won't ever finish it, probably. The Resident Evil series. If I had to play every single one, no, it would never happen. I am also debating, by the time we get around to 7 and 8, PSVR 2 will probably be out. So I'm debating, I know Resident Evil 8 will have a PSVR 2 version. I'm pretty sure they're porting Resident Evil 7 to it as well. So I might do those in VR. I am planning to play the games multiple times, because they do have... Resident Evil 1 in particular has 2 different characters. Resident Evil 2 has 2 different scenarios, rather famously. Nemesis doesn't, so we'll probably just do a one playthrough of that. Resident Evil 4 has a bunch of extra DLC stuff where you play as different characters and stuff. So there's a lot of different modes in the games. So I am considering playing them more than once. It would be like one of the first, I think, LPs that I've double dipped on. But we're thinking about it. So that is the plan for next week. So we are looking at Monday, Return to Monkey Island. Wednesday will either be Return to Monkey Island again, if I haven't finished it, or Grim Fandango, if I have. If it's a case that an hour in and I finish Return to Monkey Island, we'll just swap over to Grim Fandango and play a little bit of it. Thursday, the Centennial Case, we'll play a bit of the demo. I'm not sure how long it is. It might end up being a short stream. Friday, no stream. I'll be playing D&D. That's the plan. That might change, but that is the plan. And Saturday, OG Resident Evil, the original PlayStation 1 version of the game. I'm not going to play the director's cut. One, I don't like it, and two, it has that horrible song. So I don't want to do either of those. And I don't want it to be the case where I can only play the original Resident Evil, but I can't play the original Resident Evil 2 or Resident Evil 3. So I'm going to try to set up my PSTV, which, if you're not familiar, was a product Sony made that is effectively a PlayStation Vita without the Vita part. So it has all the internals of it, but it doesn't have a screen, controller, buttons, or whatever. It's meant to be like a tiny console you could take with you. It's pretty cool, but they didn't make many of them, and I need to check if it still fucking works. Is the problem? My PS3 doesn't work anymore, so I can't use that. So if that works, we should be good. If it doesn't, we'll just have to go straight to the HD remake, the remake, remaster, HD, whatever it is. Anyway, right, hang on. I wanted to keep a video to loop. Let's make Monkey Island loop. Anyway, that is our channel update for next week. So, as I said, Monday, Return to Monkey Island. Wednesday, Grim Fandango. Thursday, Centennial Case. Saturday, original Resident Evil. Either the PlayStation version or the GameCube version, one or the other. And then Sunday, we're wrapping all the way back around, and we'll be at a weekly news recap. Right, that's it for me today. I'm going to head off. I have the rest of the errands that kept me from starting on time. I got to finish it. I got to go back to doing that. But have a good rest of your day. Thanks for dropping in, Melvin. It's always happy to see you here. It's nice to have somebody to chat to during these things. If you want to catch up on some of the videos we did last week, like Return to Monkey Island, or Harvestella, or Valkyrie Elysium, or Xenoblade Chronicles 2, YouTube. YouTube.com, DoomTrain5. And if you're watching this on YouTube, all those videos are done live on Twitch. On twitch.tv/DoomTrain5. So you can hop in the chat and, keep me company while I play those games. Right. Have a good one, everybody, and I'll see you later. Thank you.